I don't think I'm the only one here that thinks that game really, or sorry, that play really defined the game. Um, it actually didn't. There's a lot to talk about, but welcome to TX Bros. This is our third episode. We have been kind of lagging behind a little bit, so we apologize. We are broadcasting coast to coast, or I should say recording coast to coast today. I am in uh, Washington, D.C., your host, Jordan, and of course I've got my brother and my partner, Reese, here in Los Angeles. Reese, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. I would be doing a lot worse if we had lost.
Yeah, I
A
agree.
lot worse because I can't I can't help but look at reaction videos and reaction memes and people's commentary. I just can't help it.
Yeah. No, I've been kind of holding, like, I guess what my initial reaction to this, and just for the audience today, we're gonna be very kind of laissez-faire with this recording today. So if we're all over the place, that's just kind of how we're operating right now. But basically, I was really surprised about initially when I went onto the post game thread on Reddit in r/CFB about how cordial it was. I'm sure during the game it was not. I avoid game threads now. It's kind of a toxic wasteland in there. But but yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. If we had lost, I would not be doing great. I don't know if I could even have the strength to muster up to record this right now. But here we are.
Yeah, it's like everybody, including Longhorn fans. Well, the first reaction is hats off to Arizona State.
100%.
Like 100%. Sam Levitt is what is he, a true freshman? That
He's a
guy is going to be incredible.
Yeah, he's a true
Uh,
freshman, and I'm pulling up some stats here. Why is it not pulling up the site? Um, Game recap. Yeah, we want to avoid that. Okay. Yeah, Sam Levitt is a true freshman. If we go to the box scores here, and I'm gonna pull this over. Oh shoot!
Third and 8. Levitt.
What is going on?
That ball's intercepted.
Sorry, you had to hear Joe Desator. So those who heard that. um, but anyway, Sam Levitt and Cam Scadaboo obviously were the stars of the game.
oh yeah,
And they absolutely crushed it. And I was looking at stats prior to actually getting on here, and I'm just gonna try this again. I'm gonna avoid ESPN. Texas Arizona State box score. Obviously, the final score here was 39-31, double overtime. Um, so if you okay, Google's pretty good, I guess. But Sam Levitt had 222 total yards, um, or sorry, passing yards. Cam Scadaboo had 30 carries for 143 yards, two touchdowns. Um, and also their leading receiver was Cam Scadaboo with 8 receptions for 99 yards, compared to Matthew
yeah.
Golden with seven receptions, 198 yards. But yeah, I agree with you. Sam Levitt is going to be a badass. And total hats off to Arizona State. They did deserve to be in this playoff, and I think they were really written off to start things off.
Oh yeah. A couple of things, right? Like going back to Sam. I mean, Scatterboo, we expected him to be good. I think a lot of people, when Levitt was, talking smack before the game, that we weren't really expecting much out of a true freshman, and he played the kind of game that he did, scrambled for 18 yards to keep the drive alive, like kind of just like
Yeah.
in overtime, like crazy game. You know how many times Longhorns pressured him?
Um, I actually don't know. I need to. I wish. Okay, team
I'll
stats. Here
I'll
we go.
tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. It
Yeah.
was
Please.
a rhetorical question because I know the answer.
Okay.
Because it's the one stat. It's the one stat that I wrote down this morning in preparation for this podcast. Texas pressured Sam Levitt 31 times.
31 times. That's insane.
How many plays did Arizona State have, and how many times did we actually sack the guy? I think we
So
sacked him.
I can tell you TOP right now, Arizona State, who came into this game touting their, superiority when it comes to TOP. And basically, they had 38 minutes of possession. We had 22 minutes of possession. They had 97 total plays. This includes overtime. we had 60. So they
Dude,
almost.
imagine being pressured one third of the plays that you play, right? You're being pressured on first and fourth downs if you're going for it on fourth, right? And still having a game like that. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. How many sacks did we have?
We had player stats. Okay, so if we go to defense, two, three. We had 3 sacks. Trey Moore had 2 sacks. Colin Simmons had 1 sack. Um,
So you're putting pressure on the quarterback for one third of the time that they have the ball,
yeah,
and you only of the times that you pressured him, you've only sacked the guy 1/10 of the time.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like
No, the dude's
it's
quick.
unbelievable.
Dude's incredibly quick on his feet, and he's gonna be insane. He's gonna be a freaking monster. And
Yeah.
on the flip side, Arizona State sacked us 3 times. I don't know how many times they pressured us because I'm pulling up Google stats. I don't want to, accidentally play Joe Tessitore video. It's gonna show up on the podcast, but
Yeah.
it's
You won't be able to pull it up on Google. You got to pull it up on PFF, but we don't have time to research it. But I guarantee you, they pressured us. I want to say less than 10 times. That's my guess because for how much crap I can give the offensive line for not getting the run game going, the pass pro was an A+
Yeah, it was pretty
in
good.
that game.
So Quinn got sacked 3 times, and I will say that all things considered, um, Arizona State has an incredible defensive front, and they came into it. That was their biggest weakness was pass protection, and that was weirdly enough our biggest strength on offense,
Yeah,
aside from quarterback play. And even though everybody's been ragging on Quinn all season, but um,
yeah,
but yeah, pass protection we did just fine, all things considered. And I think the biggest question mark, obviously, is the inconsistency that we had on in the running game against Arizona State,
yeah.
and especially since we were able to run the ball all over Clemson.
It
And
makes no sense.
yeah, we've had a pretty good rushing. If you don't count games like Colorado State or sorry, not Utah State, UTSA, um, you know, Louisiana Monroe, then our running game has been pretty spectacular. Other than the 2 times we played Georgia and when we played Arizona State, because if you look at what we did against Arizona State, we rushed for gosh. Yeah, I just need to be able to pull up all these stats and total them up. But if you look at our top rusher, it was Contravion Wisner with 45 yards on 18 carries, which is not good.
Yeah.
And then below that, it was I think Jaden Blue with I think he had 11 yards on 11 carries or something like that. Something just
It
awful.
wasn't Quinn. It wasn't Quinn with 15 yards on one carry.
So so
But if you take sacks away, he
mhm.
probably is their second leading rusher.
he's actually
Probably.
he's actually our fourth. But yeah, player stats. If you go to rushing, Quinn Ewers, 6 carries, 1 yard because they factor in sacks, obviously, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
We only had one rushing touchdown, and it was Quinn Ewers. So
Unbelievable. The,
says
the the man with cinder block feet scored a touchdown.
yeah, the man with a tummy ache and with a gimp ankle scored our only rushing touchdown. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that gives us a lot of concern. I think people. I was watching Joel Klatt for a little bit this week, and I turned him off because I can't with that guy anymore. But he mentioned that defensively we looked poor. I disagree wholeheartedly. What happened, and I think anybody with a brain and who watched this game can say, is that I mean, if you look at the number of plays we ran and just the time of possession in general, we immediately came out and scored a touchdown in 2 plays, and I think it was a 40-second drive. And by the way, that drive was the quickest drive ever in college football playoff history. Uh, so, and that includes the, I mean, the four-team playoff that started back in 2013 or whenever it was.
It
So
helps when you have an elite tight end. It helps when you have an elite quarterback, but it also helps when you have a short field,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But that was we got the ball starting because that was a we got the ball. We didn't get it first. Held Arizona State on their first drive to a field goal, and then we scored on two drives. Um,
Yeah.
and weirdly enough, I'm looking at some stats here. Um, Gunnar Helm is pretty much a non-factor, except for that final touch. He only had three receptions all game. One of them, of course, was one like the most important one, or the second most important one. Um, and he only he only had 56 yards receiving. So he was a non-factor until literally the fourth quarter or overtime. Um, so
It's one of the reasons why we almost lost is we didn't get him in the mix.
yeah, we didn't get him in the mix. I'm not sure how well covered Arizona State had him. They must have. But Matthew Golden came through in the clutch. He had seven receptions for 149 yards. I was in a lift with Dustin Summy after the game on the way to Hartsfield Jackson International Airport, and we asked our Uber driver, what do you on that he our Uber driver's a big college football fan, and he's like, well, y'all went to the game. Obviously, we're decked out in burnt orange. We asked him what do you think of Quinn Ewers, and he says he's good, but he needs more weapons. And
Yeah.
I mean, if our leading receiver all year is our tight end, which that's not really a problem, but the fact that we have guys like Ryan Wingo, who's a five-star recruit with two receptions for 33 yards, DeAndre Moore, two receptions for 25 yards, um, and obviously, Isaiah Bond is still injured, non-factor in that game.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough weapons, and so that's a big reason why I think a lot of people perceive him, I guess lately because he's not as injured as he used to be. A lot of people
Well,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I think for me, everybody wants to focus on the wide receiver room as Quinn not having weapons, but what about our running backs? He has no consistent bell cow to be able like a Bijan or like a CJ Baxter, where if you hand him the ball, he's going to get 4 yards,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
and
exactly.
and you can't blame that on Trey Wisner,
Yeah,
because Trey Wisner will get you 4 yards if there's a place to run, but I don't think there was anywhere to run in that game. So when people say, "Oh, Quinn doesn't have enough weapons," I agree that when you look at our receiving room last year, it was a much tighter rotation. You had Jatavion Sanders, right, who is the best possession tight end in college football last year, in my
yeah,
opinion, right?
yeah,
You had A.D. Mitchell and you had Xavier Worthy, right? And you had Whittington as a supporting role.
yeah,
But really, outside of that, that's a three-person rotation. But he had, the ability to give the ball to a running back,
yeah,
right? And say, okay, like we're gonna set up the passing game with the run game, or we're gonna set up the running game with the passing game. Whereas we don't really have that balance this year. So I think everybody wants to focus in on. I think Dustin does this a lot too. He focuses on Ryan Wingo is a great athlete, but he can't run routes. It's like I think he's a true freshman, and I don't really care as much, right, about him running routes and catching the ball because he's made some big plays. I think it's legitimately we have had an inconsistent run game, and you can't have one without the other, right? Unless if you have an offense that's designed the way that Sark wants to run this offense,
yeah.
which is balance.
Exactly. And that's the way we've done it since Sark has started, especially with guys like Bijan and like, last year we had CJ Baxter. And Jaden Blue was a more prolific runner last year than he has been this year. And I think obviously the missing piece here is CJ Baxter. We were all expecting Isaiah Bond to be a big weapon on the outside. He's been hurt, and so we've had to rely on a few guys outside of him, and it's been to our detriment. And it really showed itself against Arizona State, and that our defense really got tired and let Scatterboo go off and Sam Levitt basically go off in the second half.
Dude,
And
it, I I think Joe Klatt's take is so wrong
Oh, it's horrible.
because
Yeah, it's a stupid take.
it's horrible. Because if you actually watch the game, which he clearly didn't, if he says that we played poorly on defense, right?
Yeah.
We pretty much shut Scatterboo down for the first half,
Yeah, we
right?
did. We did. Yeah, we did. And like it was very I mean, we had that fourth goal line stand that which was like the fourth one of this year at least. Against Cam Scadaboo, who is a freaking baller. There's no two ways about it. And at the end of the day, we just couldn't move the ball. And I don't necessarily think that's because of Arizona State's defense, but I think it was due to ineptitude on offense. And at the end of the day, if we get too tired on defense, then that's ultimately what's going to cost us games.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's been our most consistent unit, and they showed up against Arizona State despite the stat line. Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, defense showed up. Special teams. Obviously, there was some good, and then there was some really, really bad shit with Bird
yeah.
Auburn. The good, obviously, being Silas Bolden, being who he is, and just being a clutch Texas Longhorn, a guy that everybody loves. And then we have this absolute head case at kicker now, who went from being a pretty good kicker last year to being a liability.
Yeah.
And it's really confusing to me, and it bothers me.
It bothers me too. I want to say one more thing about the defense too,
Sure.
because I think we should culminate. I want to culminate my thoughts because we don't talk about the coaching strategy enough, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it now. Dillingham outcoached Sark, and this is not the only time that Sark's been outcoached this year.
Yeah.
He got outcoached by Kirby Smart twice.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I said it in our group thread earlier. Um, Basically, a lot of what happened is, I mean, there were a lot of play calls that were just kind of head scratchers on offense.
Here's the biggest head scratcher. Here are my top head scratchers for the game. Right? Why are we going for a block punt?
Yeah.
We had no reason to do a blocked punt on that, right? And it completely cost us the ball in the drive, right? There's no reason. I don't know why Banks called the block on that play. Like, I honestly think like we should start fair catching it, right? Or trying to return it on every single one because we cannot block punts. And there's
Yeah.
a risk. There's a risk in blocking a punt. And I don't know how who ran into the kicker again. It was an A-list player. I don't know how he missed that block,
Yeah. I don't
but
remember who
but
it
there's
was.
no reason to go. There's no reason to go for that block. It's super duper aggressive in the first half for no reason,
Yeah.
right? The second head scratcher, right, is the long bomb from Quinn that resulted in a pick. Everybody wants to point at Quinn for that interception. Quinn's a liability with the long ball. Even the game, I mean, not the game winning, but the 4th and 13 play. That ball was underthrown. People don't realize that. Like, Golden had to wait on that for 2 steps, and if that was 2 steps too late, the safety makes that play, right? Golden ran the best route I've probably seen him run this whole year on that play, right?
Yeah.
But the and we'll talk about that play probably more than any other play, but the pick from Quinn, why are we throwing a 50-yard bomb on that play when I literally remember texting, or no, Austin called me at halftime, right? Because I was right after half. Austin called me at halftime and we chatted a little bit. And I was like, I would love a stranglehold, rear naked choke right now, and just like a 5-minute drive, a 6-minute drive, or a quick strike off of a busted coverage, right? Something that's high percentage, or not a busted coverage, but a well blocked screen, just like really slow the game down. And the second play out of the gate, we throw a 50-yard bomb because Sark really, 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 really wanted to put that game away.
Yeah.
And he was overly aggressive. And so we've gotten caught in the past in this season almost losing because we turtle. Well, we didn't turtle in this game. We got too aggressive, which made it look like we were turtling because we couldn't get the ultra aggressive place to get going. But it's like, throw the ball to Jaden Blue on a swing pass like we have done all season. Dump
Yeah.
the ball to Gunnar Helm and let him break a couple tackles like he always does. I don't understand the play calling on special teams. I don't understand the play calling on offense until the fourth quarter. Like the first two plays we called on offense resulted in a touchdown, right? And the 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 first two
Balloons.
plays on offense resulted in a touchdown. And then outside of that, man, like I just really didn't agree with the offensive play calling, and I really my second controversial thing I'm going to say, and I'll turn it over to you is like I think Sark should hire a play caller. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Somebody that he really trusts, somebody who's got some gray hair, or the flip side, have somebody who is in the booth and maybe he has this person, I don't know, but is calling out coverages and is more of a statistician, right, than anybody else. He
The
may have that person on the staff. I don't know.
the only guy who is marked as such on the staff is Kyle Flood, and he's our offensive line coach. And it's I agree with you in that we need to hire like I mean Sark. He is it's clear that he's an offensive guru, even though it didn't look it during this past game. Everybody knows that he is. Anybody who says otherwise is a dumbass, um,
Is wrong.
and it is incorrect. But what he needs to do is he needs to scheme before the game and hire somebody and be like, hey, you can, as long as it's to my scheme and you and I agree on this, and have a partner, some guy who sits on the booth while Sark manages the game as a head coach.
Yeah,
And Sark he's been great, and he's taken us out of the dark ages. I mean, we're sitting here in our second consecutive college football semifinal. So like,
yeah.
you know, but at the
I
same
don't want
time,
to.
at
I
this,
don't want to misconstrue the fact that I am talking smack about Sark. By
no,
the
no,
way,
no, no,
because I
no.
love Sark.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you are. I actually agree with pretty much everything you said. But yeah, he needs to have a separate play caller that he partners up with and says, okay, this is the scheme that I want to run. Do you think we're on the same page here? And then he gets up in the booth and Sark manages the game. Maybe Sark can do one or two plays, but he's always constantly, crouched down on the sideline and calling his plays and not actively managing the game. I mean, and so it's like
Right.
he has to find a balance of doing both. Um, the play calling, agreed, was shaky. Eh,
Atrocious.
Yeah,
Atrocious
it was there
on
was
special teams and on offense.
yeah. So my take, so as far as the block punt, I don't necessarily disagree. What the hell was that? Sorry, I saw a credit card transaction come through. Okay, I remember what that is there. Actually, it's my porn subscription. But no,
We're gonna edit that one out.
yeah, we're gonna edit that one out. No, anyway, I actually I don't mind the block punt, um, or the attempted block punt if we had actually blocked it. I don't what so
Yeah.
so
Well,
f-
hindsight's 2020.
yeah, so from my point of view, at least from our point of view at our seats, we like it was just like okay, he's gonna block that punt, but instead he tries to sack the punter, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen that. And in the end, that led to a running into the kicker. I'm glad it was a running into the kicker. I mean, it doesn't matter anyway, but like it led to running into the kicker, penalty, and that's just
Yeah.
fundamental. I think that's just fundamentals more than anything. So, but
Yeah.
so yeah, offensive play calling was atrocious. We couldn't establish the run game. Defense got really tired, and it led to a pretty um, rough situation there in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm
uh,
I'm I'm more of an offensive guy, and I think the things as far as my mindset for the football game because I played offense, and it's like we couldn't get the run game going because we never spreaded them out. Right, we had a
mhm,
couple quick strikes, we had a couple great little slant. I mean, Golden played his best game of the year,
yeah,
easily. But like our one of our more successful run plays was when we did that little pitch to Silas Bolden and he went around the end, right? And it was either DeAndre Moore. I think it was DeAndre Moore had like a little seal block there, and he just like barely made the first down. And I'm like, okay, let's run it in the perimeter, Sark. Let's spread them out so we can go up the middle like we want to, and we just never spreaded them out. And that's why our defense ended up getting tired. We didn't
mm,
play a poor defensive game. Uh, Sam Levitt spread us out because we couldn't sack him, and then Scottaboo ran it up the middle.
Yep, exactly.
It's easy. It's
Eh,
really, really easy X's and O's.
Yeah, and I think I already said this, but like on top of that too, Cam Scattaboo is just that good in that he was also their leading receiver. So it's like,
Yeah.
that game, he just balled out. And by the way, I pulled up a box score here on the TexasLonghorns.com, so that'll be helpful moving forward. But anyway, let's move on to special teams. I don't know if there's much really to talk about here. I think it's just good for us to kind of get it all out of our systems to talk about how absolutely frustrating it is that we don't have a kicker. And
Yeah.
I actually think punting. So I know that coming into the season, punting was pretty shaky, and now we have that guy coming in through the portal from Utah. That he's Australian, I believe. Um,
Hmm.
but so that's going to be a problem that's solved, and even then, that problem that's the not a huge concern for us right now. But Bert Auburn, man, what is going on with him? I know that
Yeah.
kickers are head cases, but like I think this is more than just that because he's just really regressed all season.
He has. He's regressed all season, and I think Bert. Sorry, I got to say another thing that's critical of Sark. Sark totally psyched Bert out on that second kick. Why are
Yeah,
you talking to him? let, let the man have his piece. Let him kick the ball. He goes
yeah,
up there and it's all smiles and it's all love. And I get it. Like I get it because it's like I would be tempted to do the same thing in a non-game situation in real life as a human, right? To
yeah,
try to psych somebody up. In a game situation where I don't know, but I'm willing to bet Sark and Bert don't have a lot of FaceTime with each other, to have him come up and say, "Okay, you got this," to be like, let if anybody's going to talk to Bert, it should be Banks. While he's warming up, don't get on the field with him. Don't get in his face. Don't distract him. Um, but yeah, it's weird because I think Bert will go down in the history books at the University of Texas for being our leading scoring kicker, I think, of all time, which
yeah,
is surprising because he was 89 or high 80s last year percent of made kicks, and now he's in probably I'm willing to bet he's in his low 60s.
yeah. I
It's frustrating.
I could pull up those stats. All I know is he was 1 for 3 in against Arizona State, which is atrocious. One of which, I mean,
Yeah,
was a game-winning field goal from 38 yards, which is honestly from the right, no, from not even from the right hash. Quinn literally
the
centered the
center.
ball for him, and and he missed it. He hooked it, went off the upright, and it's just like, come on. So
It happened twice, dude. He had two game losing misses that
yeah,
Quinn. I can't say more about Quinn Ewers' game because everyone's like, "Oh, well, he needed to score more touchdowns," but it's like, dude went full warrior mode in the fourth quarter. Where it's like,
yeah,
okay, we're gonna drive the ball down and we're gonna set it up and we're gonna milk the clock and we're gonna do it. And it
yeah.
happened twice, and it's like, what the heck? I don't
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
don't.
No, I don't get it either, and I hope he gets his shit together because that's ultimately going to probably lose us some games in it because I mean
Next year.
next year maybe against Ohio State too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know we can look at stats and we can look at all that obviously Arizona State they 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 outdid us on every side on both sides of the ball in terms of stats. Um, but the only stat that matters, and this is the most cliche thing that anybody says, is the scoreboard. And it's that dub
Wins, W's, baby.
wins, yeah, wins, and that 4th and 13. And I'm surprised I haven't said anything yet about Andrew Makuba um, and that game-winning interception. The only turnover we had all game, by the way, happened to be the one that won us the game, which is, I think, pretty symbolic. We had a pretty long streak of turnovers going into that game that we sustained because of that play, and obviously we won the game off of that play. And we were sitting right there by all the family of the football players And when we went after the game, we were celebrating. We were going insane. And we walk up to the players' families and choking up talking about it. But no, we walk up to the players' families, and Andrew Makuba's dad is down there, and he's like, so first of all, there's two guys down there. They're both related to Andrew Makuba, and there's this one guy, and he's like in an orange jumpsuit, and and he's just going nuts, like insane, like cussing and just going, that's what I'm talking about. And like, yeah, sure, that's probably his cousin or his brother or something like that. And then his dad, like we met him, and he's just like the most like humble, like but super proud of his son guy possible, and so that was pretty cool. Um,
That's really cool.
yeah, but yeah, Makuba. I mean, if you look at just individual stats here, go to offense. Um, so obviously, player of the game was Jade Barron. 7 solo tackles, 4 assists, 11 total. After that was actually Michael Taff, including the mistargeting play. Is actually targeting, but I mean, there's some debate as to whether that was targeting. I really don't want to talk about that.
That's the
But
one thing we're not going to talk about because my first retort is you can't pull your own player into the end zone
yeah,
with number
exactly.
77 from Arizona State. And that's the first thing I saw in that play when Scadaboo scored that. I'm like, okay, they're going to throw the flag, right? Because they changed the rule to where you can push, but you still can't pull.
Yeah, you
That
can't
dude
pull.
straight up WWE suplex Scadaboo.
Yeah, he did.
Scadaboo got freaking ragdolled in there, and I'm like, holy crap, that's
Yeah,
got to be a penalty.
no, yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really
Um,
surprised they didn't call that. But on top of that, too, and this is the last I'll say about the penalty crap because I personally don't want to talk about it either. I think it's all. I mean, at the end of the day, Texas made our mistakes, Arizona State made their mistakes. The team who capitalized on those mistakes won the game. But Isaiah Bond got targeted, and nobody called that, and that was very blatant,
yeah,
and that was not called. But anyway, I digress. Player of the game defensively, Jade Barron. Um, I mean, he won the defensive MVP, 11 total tackles, um, and Michael Taff was next, and then Ant Hill, Andrew Makuba. Um, so yeah, the Thorpe Award winner comes through for us on defense, but.
yeah. I think. Can I talk about officiating? I know you don't want to.
D- d-
Blanket statement: officiating this year in any college football game has been horrible. This was one of the worst officiated games I've ever watched. Um, they missed a false start on Arizona State.
Several.
They missed the targeting on Taft. They missed the targeting on Isaiah Bond. We couldn't get a hold called for us in that whole game. And I don't know how obvious it was to you in person. Half the reason why we couldn't catch Sievert, right, is because our guys were getting flung around and hung on to,
Yeah.
right? Or not Sievert, Levitt rather. Um, the stupid busted play in overtime where we get the defensive pass interference or defensive holding, you don't call that. It's
Yeah.
a broken play. You don't call DPI on that, right? Because at that point the route's broken, and at that point when Levitt throws the ball away, it had zero impact on the outcome of that game, of that play. Why are you calling defensive holding on that? It,
Yeah.
it made no sense. I'm sitting here and I'm like, that particular officiating crew, and
It was
I'm
a,
not going to say anything more than that, is the worst one I've ever seen
it was a Big Ten
by
crew.
by by and large. Big Ten
It's a
crew,
Big Ten crew.
uh, horrible. But
They
but the good one thing positive I can say is that they let the boys play.
they did. They swallowed their whistles, man. They did.
They did.
For a fair amount of that game, there was one bit there where that one long pass play to Scadaboo, where Michael Taff literally
Yeah.
ripped his helmet off,
Yeah.
Scadaboo's helmet off, and during that play, I think those. So they called a defensive pass interference on Scadaboo. Uh, sorry, let me rephrase that. That was just a nightmare of a sentence.
On
Yeah,
tap.
on Taff, and I when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's OPI. That's OPI.
100%.
Scadaboo
It's
pushed
textbook
off.
OPI. No, not
um,
even. No, he didn't even just push off. He spotted the ball. He knew the defensive back was by him. He stopped his route to push off to then catch the ball. It wasn't just, oh, I did a little hand play, because hand contact's allowed.
Yeah.
Contact's allowed, and I like when the refs let receivers play with contact, because we used to literally practice karate when we would do hand fights, and it's like, yeah, contact's part of the sport, obviously, but that was like textbook OPI,
Yeah,
100%.
it was. Um, no, I agree with you there. And Big Ten crew officiating against an SEC team, and that the SEC, the Big Ten doesn't want the SEC in the playoff, or what. We can get all QAnon on this if we want to, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we're sitting here at 35 minutes. I know we're trying to keep this a bit of a shorter show today. I'd like to look forward to the Cotton Bowl in Dallas in the semifinal, because at the end of the day, um, while it was a sloppy game, it was not our best game. I think that the best teams end up playing their worst games and find ways to win. And I think that's what we did. At the end of the day, the scoreboard is what the scoreboard is, and Texas won that football game, and I'm extremely happy about that. Doesn't matter how it happened, and I'm glad that it happened. Well, actually, I would have rather it happened earlier in the season, but whatever. Uh, but either way, it
Yeah.
happened, and so we have a really fun game coming up here in Dallas, against Ohio State. And this is the first time since Texas played against Alabama last year, where we are the underdogs, and from a betting standpoint. And as of right now, or at least the last time I checked, which was this morning, we were a 6.5 point underdog to Ohio State. And given that they absolutely manhandled Oregon in the Rose Bowl, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. But watching Sark and his press conference before, I guess you could say it post game, not post game, but like the post game, looking forward to the Cotton Bowl, you can tell that he feels a bit disrespected. Um, and anytime we are disrespected, which has not been often. Uh,
Yeah.
because in both Georgia games we were favored, um, and we lost. But anytime we've been disrespected, going into the Alabama game, everybody thought we were going to get killed. We ended up winning by 10 points. Sark does have a way of having a bit of Tom Herman syndrome and playing up to his opponents. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just the idealist in me and the optimist in me. I am a very, unfortunately, optimistic thinker when it comes to Texas football, and it tends to disappoint me at times. But
Yeah.
and right now, it's generally agreed upon that Ohio State's probably the best team left in the playoff. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about the Cotton Bowl and going into where we're at in our second consecutive or semifinal in a row?
Here's four keys to victory, right? Is the first one that I'm going to piggyback on what you just said. Not only are we disrespected, right, by the spread and being the underdog, right, but also we just survived a game that we should have lost, right? So if you can get the team to be motivated, there's two ways to get motivated by that. It's like if you beat a team barely that you should have beaten by two scores, right? There's that aspect of saying, oh, we're unstoppable, right? Because like we even played our worst game possible and we still won, right? And to get into people's mind to have this destiny that we're going to make it to the national championship, on top of being an underdog, we should have, if we can play the mind game and motivate the literal children who are playing the sport, right? The kids rather, uh, to think positively, you got to manifest your destiny, right? You got to manifest your goal and play up to your opponent, because we deserve to be there, right? I actually can't believe the spread is 5.5 points. I think it would be a coin flip. I thought it was going to be 2.5 or 3 points, right?
Yeah.
But at least that's where the spread is now. The second key is everybody keeps saying we got to shut down Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins, right? They're two amazing NFL caliber running backs at Ohio State, right? To be able to open up the pass game. I think it's completely the opposite, right? I'm more worried about Jeremiah Smith. I'm more worried about Emeka Ibuka, and I'm more worried about Will Howard's ability to extend plays than I am shutting down two pretty good running backs, right? Because we just played the best running back in the nation, and we, for all intents and purposes, shut him down for half the game, right? That guy just happened to be playing in a game where our defense was on the field for 45 minutes plus overtime or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
45 minutes total, 33 minutes of TOP in regulation, whatever it was, right? So we're going to have no problem stopping their running backs, right? But we need to sack Will Howard hard,
Yeah.
right? Like we need to make him feel pain and we need to make him feel afraid because if they start connecting, like Jeremiah Smith's the best wide receiver in the country right now. Like he's on. If you guys have never seen that guy play, he's unbelievable. And I only happen to watch highlights, but he goes up and he catches the ball. If you just throw it within a 7-yard, 8-yard radius within the guy, like he can just catch the ball, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to shut down Will Howard to be able to take control of that game, right?
Yeah.
So that was two things. The third key to winning the games is make field goals, right? Make easy field goals when you need to, right? And get special teams right. And then the fourth thing is I don't think Quinn needs to even play his best game, right? Because I'm tired of putting the blame on Quinn. So I'm going to avoid quarterback play on my fourth key, and Sark needs to call a, a Kyle Dillingham level offensive strategy where okay, we're not moving the ball. We're going to throw a double pass to Cam Scadaboo or have Cam Scadaboo throw a 70-yard throw, right? We need to get really, really deep in the bag and have a little trickeration to win, right? Because that's what's going to, toe to toe, we're not as talented as Ohio State. Like
No,
by far, we're not as talented.
yeah,
You know.
we're not, and I agree with you there too. It's this is Sark's moment, and I think a lot of what happened against Arizona State too is we messed around too much in just kind of like, okay, well, we're up 17-3, we don't need to, we're gonna win this game. And Sark this season has kind of had a habit of just kind of getting overly conservative when he's like, okay, well, I say overly conservative, he'll get overly conservative, we'll be moving the ball, and then when he has a situation where we should take the points and kick the field goal, he goes for it.
Yeah.
To kind of prove a point to his team and be like, okay, well, this is practice or whatever. This is not the game to do that. This is a game, to state the obvious, this is a game where he needs to open up the playbook and, do kind of pretty much what he did during, overtime against Arizona State and, and really just, again, pull out some trickeration, like you said. And uh, uh, also, like to your point, it's got to be a willpower thing, and we got to take this underdog shit personally because we're Texas, which
Yeah.
granted
We
that
deserve to be here.
yeah, we're here for a reason, and on top of that too, um, Jeremiah Smith, like you mentioned, is probably the best receiver in the game right now. Um, if again to your point, if we don't get pressure on Will Howard, then it's going to be a Michael Penix, Roma Dunze type situation all over again, where we had him covered like a freaking blanket in the Sugar Bowl last year, and he was just throwing absolute dimes. Now that being said, yeah, again, and also to your point, just to kind of close out, that particular point, yeah, we can definitely stop their running game. I actually think that we can run against Ohio State successfully. Michigan did it. If we do a lot of what Michigan did, you know, we can get them like pretty exhausted on defense. And I think as long as if we can establish a running game, which is very doable against Ohio State, I know that sounds crazy, then we have a pretty good shot. Um, to your point again, if we can get to Will Howard and put some pressure on him, which we have faced Will Howard before when he played against Kansas or played as Kansas State, as Kansas State's quarterback last year. Um, we know what he's all about. We can get pressure on him, and we sacked him to win that game in overtime. But um,
Yep.
and that's the thing too. I think this Arizona State game, it's kind of an anomaly. The Kansas State game last year was an anomaly. I think those two games are very similar, and so to your point, this is a very winnable game, but Texas has to execute perfectly, almost perfectly. Texas has to show up and be mentally there in the entire game. We got to kick field goals obviously and make them. And it's going to be a real test of our resolve and our
Yeah.
athleticism and our ability and Sark's ability to coach as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, damn it, I want to play for a national championship.
Me
um,
too. If we get to the national championship, I don't really care what happens in that game personally, right? Because the best team is going to win that game, and it's a coin flip even between the best two teams, right?
yeah,
To me, this game, I will be really upset if we lose
yeah,
because I hate Ohio State. It's winnable, and there's so many obvious things that we need to solve that for some reason we can't solve. Like if we score a touchdown in the third quarter against Ohio State, we're going to win because we haven't done that all year,
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Um, so we got to come out of the locker room in the second half with something special,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't have to be the perfect adjustment because last year we were a second half team. This year we're a first half team. It's very weird how we've kind of switched roles in that regard. But we gotta play a good third quarter because we played a great first quarter. We played an okay second quarter against Arizona State. We played a horrible third quarter. We played a horrible first half to the fourth quarter, and then the last 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, we played the best football I played all year.
yeah,
Um,
and going into overtime
so
we did as well. So um,
yeah,
anyway, we're sitting here at 45 minutes. I um, I don't want to take this too much or much too longer, too much longer. Um, and I think we got most of what we got covered today. But I think what we can do is I really don't want to make a prediction for this Ohio State game.
yeah,
This is the most worried I've been about a game um, that all season. And I hate to be the guy who makes this prediction, but Texas loses by 10. Um,
yeah,
but that being said, if we're all cylinders, you know, all cylinders firing, we have the ability to win this game. I mean, if Michigan can do it, then Texas can. And Michigan
yeah,
has no offense at all. So,
yeah.
uh,
The worst part about this game is that if Michigan can do it, then so can Texas, right? So we beat Michigan. Ohio State's playing way better football than they were playing against that game. But you got to give Michigan credit for winning that game because it's still the same 12 guys or 11 guys on the field. 12 man, baby. It's still the same 11 guys on the field, right? My prediction that we can close the podcast on, I believe 100% in the villain redemption arc, right? Bert Auburn comes in clutch. We win by a field goal.
mm, I
That's
hope
my
you're
prediction.
I hope you're right, man. And I hope I'm wrong. So, but yeah, so we'll wind it up today, everybody. Reese, appreciate it as always. Gonna have this uploaded on YouTube here in a bit, but let y'all know what's going on here. But Hook'em Horns, Texas Fight, see y'all in Dallas next week.
Looking, baby.